In a world that is absolutely obsessed with upgrades, with optimization, with escaping the limits of our own bodies, what happens when the body finally decides to call in its debts? We are going to dive into the story of a man who had to learn how to die just so he could remember how to live.
That's a pretty powerful thought, isn't it? The idea that your own body could be sending out a message, maybe for years, but it's a message you've been paid, conditioned, and even technologically augmented to completely ignore. Well, this is a story about what happens when you finally start to listen, right when it's almost too late.
So let's meet Ram. For 17 years, this guy was the perfect corporate asset. I mean, his body wasn't really his own anymore. It was more like a platform. It was rebuilt, restructured to just override pain, override distress, any kind of biological feedback that might get in the way of his performance. He was, for all intents and purposes, a machine, until the day that machine started to break down.
Now, this failure wasn't sudden. It wasn't like a switch just flipped. It was a process, a slow, systemic breakdown that the very systems designed to keep him running just couldn't suppress anymore. You could say his body was trying to speak to him in a language that had been systematically muted, and that message was getting very, very loud. It all started with these little signals. Glitches, you could call them. Things his corporate-issued augments were supposed to just smooth over. But here's the thing. These weren't just errors in the code. No. They were symptoms. Symptoms that the underlying hardware, his own body, was becoming fundamentally incompatible with all the machinery that was crammed inside of it.
And this, right here, is where two completely different worlds just collide. On one side, you've got the corporate medics. Their job isn't to heal, it's to keep the asset operational. So they just dismiss every single symptom. Stress response, mineral deficiency. But on the other side, a street medic gives him the raw, unfiltered truth. It's not a deficiency. It's an irreversible loop. He is, and I quote, at a cellular level, on fire.
And just like that, 17 years of service, gone. The corporation declares him non-viable. Think about that language. He's not a person who needs to be healed. He's damaged equipment that needs to be thrown out. They hand him a severance package, show him the door, and that's it. Contract terminated.
So now he's aimless. He has a death sentence just hanging over his head, and Ram descends into the lower corridors of this huge megacity. And it's there, just wandering, that his feet somehow carry him to a place his mind could never have calculated or planned for.
He finds this place, the meat temple. There is no sleek corporate aesthetic here, no clean design. It's built from the leftovers, the scraps of other things. It wasn't beautiful, not by a long shot, but it was honest. And that honesty was a world away from the sterile, calculated environment he'd just been kicked out of.
And this is what pulls him in. It's not a sales pitch. It's not some grand promise. It's a sound. The sound of human beings. They're not synchronized like machines, but they're breathing together, in concert. It's this organic rhythm in a world that's filled with artificial ones.
These are the very first words spoken to him by Devi, the temple's teacher. And just, wow. No questions, no judgment. Just this startlingly accurate recognition of what he is. She didn't see a broken piece of corporate tech. She saw a man with dying machines inside his flesh, and she invited him in.
So what is this place, really? Well, its whole philosophy basically turns everything Ram knows completely on its head. It is a practice, and it's centered on the sacredness of the one thing his entire life was programmed to avoid at all costs: failure.
Okay, this is the most crucial point right here. What the temple is not. It's not a church, it's not a cult, it has no doctrine, no manifesto you have to sign. It is simply a practice, a set of habits designed to make you pay attention, a way of returning to the direct experience of actually being in a body. And this comparison just lays it all out perfectly. The corporation saw the body as a vehicle, something to be maintained and optimized for a task. But the temple sees it as a home to be lived in, a record of every single experience. Ram had spent his life operating his body like a machine. The temple was about to teach him how to actually inhabit it.
And right here, this is the central idea. In a world that is terrified of mortality, the temple finds something sacred in it. It's not sacred despite its flaws. It's sacred because of them. The fact that it fails, that it's temporary, that's precisely what gives it all of its meaning.
So, how do you learn to inhabit a body that you've spent a lifetime trying to ignore? Well, the temple's methods are direct, they're physical, and they are designed to force you, kicking and screaming if necessary, back into the present moment.
Now, looking at this list, these 4 practices might seem pretty extreme. I get it, but each one serves a very, very specific purpose. This is not about self-punishment, not at all. These are tools for reestablishing communication with the fundamental truths of being flesh and blood.
Okay, let's break this down. Fasting isn't some biohack. It's about relearning what need actually feels like so that you can experience real gratitude. Bleeding, we're talking small intentional cuts, is about acknowledging pain not as some system error, but as the body's most direct way of screaming, I am real. And aging is the practice of not intervening, of just allowing the body to become a living, breathing record of a life that's been lived. But the most profound practice of all is witnessing death. When Ram watches an elder named Olusegun pass away, something inside him finally just breaks open. He weeps, and he's not just weeping for this man he barely knew, he's weeping for everything. A grief that his augments had kept locked down for nearly 2 decades finally finds a voice. And then Devi gives his diagnosis its true name. It's not a curse. It's a gift. It is the mercy of knowing. The chance to be truly, fully present for the end of his one and only life. A chance, let's be honest, that most people never get.
And all of this newfound presence, it's about to be put to the ultimate test. Because the corporate world that threw Ram away decides, you know what, it isn't quite done with the temple. And they come to collect what they see as their property.
12. That's the number of heavily armed, heavily augmented corporate tactical operatives sent to the temple. This is an overwhelming force. It's designed for one thing: compliance, not negotiation. The commander confronts Ram as he stands in their way, and she says this to him. It's a simple, logical statement of fact. From a tactical point of view, she is 100% right. And Ram's reply, it just shows how much he has completely changed. He's not afraid of dying anymore. He's concerned with meaning. He has fully embraced the temple's teaching. The threat of death has no power over him because he's already accepted it.
And so the story of Ram and the meat temple leaves us with this question. In our endless, relentless drive for optimization, for efficiency, for transcendence, have we forgotten the sacredness of our own limitations? What's the true cost of forgetting how to be temporary, how to fail, and ultimately, how to be human?